Have you ever wondered why those called the highest can still fall like the lowest? Have you ever seen someone preach with spiritual fire, only to hear their name later whispered in the shadow of scandal? Men and women who once moved crowds, who once stirred your heart in God's presence, suddenly shattered beneath a headline. Have you ever thought, maybe it's just me, struggling with desire, pride, jealousy, control, bitterness? But the truth is, it's not just you. The highest have fallen the hardest. They've left behind 5 signs, not for us to judge them, but to see ourselves reflected in the foggy mirror of spiritual history. The first sin, desire. When the eyes are no longer made to see the light, but to satisfy the darkness within. David, the one who slayed Goliath, the psalmist who wrote heaven's melodies, bowed to the sight of a bathing woman. He once held the sword in the name of God, but couldn't hold back a glance that didn't belong to him. Desire doesn't arrive like a storm. It seeps in like a whisper of smoke, through the cracks of a weary soul. When victory makes you soft, even the one called a man after God's own heart could betray him with just one wrong gaze. The second sin, pride. When the anointed starts to believe they are the source of the oil. Lucifer, the one who once reflected heaven's brilliance, didn't fall because of darkness, but because he wanted to be the light. He didn't reject God with words, but with the quiet ambition inside. I will ascend. Pride was the first sin, and it may be the last one we ever see in ourselves, because it doesn't wear an ugly face. It wears robes of power. It walks in honor. It thrives under applause. The third sin, envy. When someone else's blessing becomes a curse in your own heart. Cain didn't kill Abel because he was rejected, but because God accepted Abel's offering more. Envy turned an altar into a battlefield. The first blood shed on earth wasn't for war, but for wounded ego. Envy distorts your vision. It makes someone else's favor feel like your failure. And when you stop seeing grace, bitterness becomes all that remains. The fourth sin, control. When you don't wait for his voice, but speak in his name. Saul, the man chosen to be king, refused to wait for Samuel. He offered the sacrifice himself, claiming zeal. But God didn't want the ritual at the right time. He wanted a heart that knew how to wait. And so the crown slipped from Saul's hands, not because of a failed battle, but because his heart no longer bowed. The control is how we mask our fear of loss. We say, I'm just being responsible. But deep down, we're trying to be God, instead of letting God be king. The fifth sin, bitterness. When you pray for your enemies, but secretly hope they fall. Jonah, the prophet who could hear God's voice, grew angry when God forgave. He couldn't bear to see grace given to those who once harmed his people. So he sat under a vine, refusing to enter joy, because his heart still clung to bitterness, wrapped in the robes of religion. Bitterness grows quietly. It doesn't shout, it doesn't rage. It just sits there, in dry prayers, in silent eyes, in the absence of light when others are blessed. 5 sins, 5 shattered mirrors in a once radiant temple, and those broken pieces. They're still lying there, in the hearts of those who still kneel. If you've seen yourself in one, or in all of them, it's not because you're too weak. It's not because you're unworthy. It's because God is leading you back to where the cracks began, not to break you, but to heal you. Because the first step to being rebuilt is having the courage to say, I carry these things too.